Okay, here we are down in the Marda Loop area in Calgary. We'll take a walk through this place, check out, see what it's got for rough ends in it. Should be lots to see in terms of HVAC, plumbing, gas, the whole gamut. We should see all our framing complete, the whole bit. We're going to walk through it with a insulator who's getting ready to check the house out. What they're checking for is all the backings in the right place and the studs are correct. I believe the inspections are passed on this house, so the insulation will be loaded into it, and we can have a good look around and tour around in it. So there's our exterior. They've got some a little bit of building envelope to take care of there yet, but we're just a typical infill lot here in Marda Loop area. So yeah, so let's see what we can find out. Starting in the living room, sort of great room area, we can see we've got a fireplace roughed in there, which great places to run heating through and hiding all kinds of things in there. Up above our heads we see the silver 5 or 6 inch pipes, heating supply lines, and black as ABS plastic drain lines, and we can also see some red and blue poly lines, the red being hot water, the blue being cold water. Standard framing, because we're 24 on center there. We can see a bunch of solid material there. It's partly making up some double jacks and some kings for this window, but also there's a point load there. Look at that a bit later and see our lintel across there at the top of that window. Feature to the side of the window is just sort of an area that separates the kitchen just on the other side of where we are. Another great place to run lots of heating. So directly below this area we're standing in is the furnace, so that's some heat going up there. And
it just looks like crap. You're gonna need a coat.
Okay, so this is our floor system, 14 inches deep. Here's our subfloor, bottom plate of the small wall. So we can follow that subfloor across there, and we can see how that floor system comes down here. So there's no floor system in here. So here's this tall wall. This is the bottom of the tall wall. There's our bottom plate, our A19 clip and our studs that carry on right up through past the stairs all the way to where we were on the top floor. Come down and look underneath. So here's our subfloor layer. We come up underneath. There's a ladder sill. Okay, so it's not a sill, and we can see it's been capped with 3/8. Good practice. That'll run around the entire foundation on top of the ladder sill. And this is the underside of the subfloor. Okay, so that's exactly how that is. No floor system in this part. It's been deleted, so our tall wall comes right down and bears directly on the foundation. This 2x4 here is the beginning of our frost wall, or the top of the frost wall. We can see these studs here, the space they've allowed in here so they can get adequate insulation on this later. All these things have done is they've just used the ladder sill, which is really nice. You wouldn't be able to do this with a regular sill, with a sill plate. Well, you could, but it'd be a little trickier, a little harder to do. They've just put these blocks in here to retain these studs. Okay, so something really interesting to look at. Again, this is considered an exterior wall, so we've got a vapor seal box for the electrical. Adequate room here. At the first plate of any basement wall on a concrete is this is pressure treated, required by code. You could use regular number 2 lumber, but you'd have to put poly underneath and between the floor. A little bit neater job with the pressure treated material. Got a plumbing stack here. You can see it goes right through the floor slab. That was here first. The floor slab was poured later, obviously. And this plumbing stack all the way up through the house, jogs over the foundation a little bit there on the wall, all the way up to the top floor where we were. We can see this frost wall is not structural. It's here for insulation and drywall. Okay. You can see our big bats of insulation here that have been loaded in that the insulator will open up and use later. Drywall access is always an issue. So this window, I noticed it earlier outside, it's just tacked in place. That's why we can see daylight in and around these areas. They'll put it in permanently later after the drywall is loaded into the house. They'll be using 60-inch wide drywall because we have 9-foot ceilings. This must be a bar or something. There's a sink roof in there. So it's important to note those pipes are on the warm side of the insulation. So they'll hide this within cabinetry or something. You cannot put that inside that wall. Those pipes will be subject to freezing. Okay. They can get away with the drain, but not the supply lines. Okay. Overhead bulkheads. So we've got our ceiling down here. Looks like it's 9 feet. The bulkheads are necessary to encompass a lot of these heat plenums. So the heat plenums are putting warm air and sometimes cold air as well. And then we'll have pipes come off those to service the rest of the house. So the furnace is just on the other side of these pipes. So sometimes it's necessary to leave some headroom due to bulkheads. But they've done a good job here. The rest of the ceiling is nice and clean. The rest of it they've been able to encompass in the floor system. Okay. All right. They got loads of room in this floor system. They've used 14-inch joists in here. Super important stair detail is they've left room in between their walls and the stairs so they can get their drywall continuously behind the tread and the riser. That's super important. Same thing on the frost wall. They've left a little gap in there if you look closely. Okay. That can also be accomplished with 1x4 material. If we look way up there on that top floor, you can see those skinny little boards in between the studs and the stringers of the stairs. Right about there somewhere. That allows for the drywall material to move into the stringer a little bit so it's all even later on. They can also drive a screw, preferably screws, not nails, and it will keep the stairs from moving and deflecting. They haven't done that here. Yes, they have. They've got some nails in here, and what that'll do is it'll support the stairwell as it deflects from load and prevent any squeaking. You can see these treads are made out of 1-inch plywood, and the risers are 3/4-inch plywood. We saw those being made at Allspan. Well, not this particular set. It's a different company, but same idea. Under the stairs, storage. It's a doorway here. Stick your Christmas trees and all that kind of stuff. Looks like over that way we've got just a whole lot more frost wall. It's probably a bedroom, I think, by the look of the closets, etc. More bulkheads, more heating, typically forced air blows down from the ceiling in the basement. Okay, I didn't see any slab heat in here, so I think this is a cold slab. We've got bathroom, 3-piece vanity, toilet over there just behind that debris, and then an acrylic tub. A little bit of storage right here, but it also sort of evolves into the mechanical room. So here's our higher efficiency furnace. Okay, 96% efficient. You can tell by the sticker. Here's our intake and exhaust pipes. Schedule 40 pipe. It's not super hot gas. That's why they call it a high efficiency furnace. It burns just about everything. And a high efficiency hot water heater and storage tank. We can tell it's high efficiency. It has what they call the power vent on here, which takes care of our gas. Up here we have a heat recovery ventilator. Have a dark colored thing, this big box here. So that's just a fancy term for a heat exchanger more than anything. So what it's going to do is it's going to capture heat out of reclaimed air to regenerate back inside the house before it's exhausted. Instead of exhausting hot or warm air out of the house, they can reclaim some of the heat from it. Nice spacious basement. 9-foot ceilings. Job well done. Nice wide stairwell. Up we go.
Okay, no worries. I'm doing markout and pre-cord here. The basement floor, is that getting completely covered, carpet, tile, wood, whatever? I can spray paint the floor.
One of the things this drywall contractor does, which is really nice, in case any of these plugs don't get cut out, because the drywallers tend to just go right over top of them and then they cut them out. They mark them. Little dots on the floor indicate that there's a light above.
I spray painted all the boat studs and paint.
Just in case anything goes missing. Cold air returns. Anything that a drywaller might inadvertently bury. That way it can be easily found later. One of the few drywall contractors that does that, actually. It's a great idea. More insulation. Vapor barrier. Rolls and rolls of 6mm poly. Acoustical seal. Acoustical sealant will seal their vapor barrier. It'll seal lumber. It'll seal around their windows openings. It's basically like gasket in a tube. Remains flexible. And here we've got some window and door spray foam. So they'll use those around the windows. It's important to note too, they don't pack the whole door opening. What they'll do in an area like this, we can get a good shot here. Oh, my fingers are going. They'll shoot a bead of that all the way to the exterior. And then the majority of this gap is filled with fiberglass insulation. These are vinyl gem windows. If you fill these things full of spray foam, A, you're not really gaining anything by doing it. B, you can deform the jam. So they only go out there to the exterior. It creates a nice seal for us. And there should be a roll of the blue tape. We must use blue tape now. We can't use, this is actual sheathing tape, specially designed for vapor barrier. We don't use red tuck tape anymore. Up on the ceiling here, we've got a number of features. We've got the tray ceiling framed in, some pot lights with a flexible poly boot for vapor barrier, and mainly a skylight. And we can see how the framer has put some strips of OSB there to hold in bats of insulation. Skylights are a nice feature, but they do present a significant amount of heat loss. There can be moisture condensation issues with them, and also potentially leaking on the roof. These are best spray foamed if you insist on having them. The bat insulation is very difficult to do, but if time and care is taken, it can work out properly. But just an intricate feature, very difficult to get a good seal on those things as far as building envelope goes, and moisture and insulation issues. Very nice having natural light into the home, of course, though. And we can see how the trusses are sort of intermixed with some framing as well. Upper landing, just a bench point there, and an overall shot of that area just backed up a little bit. You can see the top of that tall wall. There's a big long piece of engineered beam, if you will, at the top of that tall wall, going right straight across those 3 windows, and a tall wall stopping up underneath, so a fair bit of heat loss on that area. So it's very clear down, all the way down past those stairs. We'll take a peek at that in a second. We can see it bears right on top of the foundation footing. There is a bit of a joint here with some material running through. This is a good example of a framed in place tall wall detail. House has passed inspections, so the insulator has loaded the house with insulation. In other words, the insulation is just on site. You can see our rough-ins are complete. As we scan around, we're going to see lots of wire. So we've got things like line voltage and switches. We've also got low voltage indicated with our blue wire side of the house here. And we can see our exterior boxes with gaskets. This ties into the vapor barrier, creates a great seal for us. On an exterior wall, again, that's a cantilevered wall that's in close proximity to the property line. That's why it's got that light green fire protected sheathing. Our interior boxes are just regular. We don't need that seal. Pretty complicated ceiling, sometimes described as a tray ceiling. We can see the trusses up in there, but you can also see some angled pieces that are what we call stick framed and put in there by the framer, not supplied by the trusses to create a tray ceiling. So those are actually sort of like a hip on a roof, really, on the underside, on the ceiling. I believe we're probably in a master bedroom here by the looks of things. And over there we have our ensuite. Ensuite, we can see the plumbing line rough ends. That's our PEX piping. Blue for cold, red for hot. And the black pipe we see is ABS pipes. Been roughed in. This being drain for a sink. This being a clean out in case there's ever any trouble. And above that, we just have venting for plumbing gases that tie into another sink provided for here. But then moving on up, snaking its way around through the roof and eventually moving right on out to the exterior up through the roof penetration. And all the vents will tie together. This is just another vent line coming up, tying into the other two sinks that is coming up through the floor from down below. There's a shower rough in here. You can see our drain is roughed in. You can see our control valves for the shower. This will be a tiled shower. Oops. This will be a tiled shower. This will be completed after drywall. The drywallers will not put regular drywall in here. They'll be putting a dent shield or a fiber cement board. Example of some preparation for vapor barrier on the ceiling. Looks like that's going to be some sort of light fixture of some sort. The drywall insulator people will provide poly, 6mm poly to tie to that to create a vapor seal. You can also see our top plates done by the framer. Right at 6mm poly in between the top plate and the cap plate. And we can also see some backing up on top of that wall. Actually, a third piece of material, that's to catch the drywall that needs to connect to the bottom of those trusses. Always nice to see the conscientious builders after the heating rough end's been done. We'll look at a little bit more heating when we get down to their floors. They've installed a little bit of screen over top of the rough end. That's just temporary, just to keep excess larger chunks of debris and just things that follow construction from falling down into those. The windows are foggy. They just have a protective coating on them. So the 9-foot ceilings in here. It's quite a spacious house. There's a walk-in closet, substantial size. I'd estimate this is probably about 13, 14 by probably 8 or 10 feet. So the main hall, walk down here, is another series of bedrooms. Have a laundry on the top floor. Just on the other side of that wall. This is just a washroom, roughed in for 2 sinks. This is the top of our main stack. We'll see that in the basement later. This is to capture most of the plumbing gases will go out here, and there's a auxiliary vent tied to it. The shiny thing is a dryer vent. We'll take a look at that on the other side later. And that has gone up and through the roof. swinging around quickly here. We've got just an acrylic tub, not a built-up shower. Roughed in here for bathing, a toilet rough in, and a bit of a shampoo bench, I like to call it. That'll all get some concrete board instead of drywall and drilled and tiled, most likely, at some point. You see we've got, I rather like it, we've got some inline bath fans roughed in, so this pipe will draw from the wall, move down to the floor, probably to an inline fan and exhaust at the side of the house rather than trying to pump that warm, moist air up through our attic space up above. There was one over in the ensuite too, I just neglected to mention. Again, good conscientious builder. They've put 2x4 backing in, typically not something drawn on a plan, but I'll put this in for towel bars, robe hooks, things like that that typically go into bathrooms, especially. Moving right along. Laundry. There we go, on a standard laundry rough-in. This is a drain. They'll typically put a pan underneath in case there's ever any issue with any leaks with the washing machine. Again, blue is cold, red is hot for water supply. You can see our drain. We've got a good example of a gas trap here. Okay, this is always retains water, so doesn't allow plumbing gases to come up and enter. This is open to the atmosphere inside the house, so we don't get any excess plumbing gases. And the drain will go down through the main stack down in the basement. We'll see that later. 220 electrical for the dryer. This is a nice feature. The dryer exhaust can hook within the wall here. So the hose that comes off the dryer can recess into this area so the dryer can come quite close to the wall. Nice little detail. Just slip out through the door. Roundabout way. Assumption was we just have a bedroom back in here with a closet or two. These items are the heating contractor is drawing, the forced air system is drawing warm or used air back down into the system. They'll use joist cavity spaces, and these pieces of metal are just for the drywall crew. What they'll do is they'll cut around those, and we'll be left with this opening and behind, and then later it'll be trimmed with a grill of some sort, or a grate, if you will. So it's a little more aesthetically pleasing, but that's how we draw the used air back down to the furnace system to reheat it, and also fresh air is introduced. Attic access as well, just for access to the attic space later. So, standing on top of the floor system right here, standing on top of our floor joists and our sheets, there's the bottom plate of our wall. If we kind of scoot around this stairwell here, we can see the bottom of that tall wall system. You can see it jogs down there a little bit, so that yellowy golden colored LVL it sort of stops the floor system. There's a hole in the floor system. There is no floor system over in this area. So this tall wall structure comes down. They've got a little bit of subfloor material bearing on top of the either the cast-in-place ladder, I'm not sure which it is, haven't looked at it yet, or the sill plate, and it's attached to that. Those clips, incidentally, in there are specialized clips that are often prescribed by an engineer for a tall wall. I believe they're called an A19 clip. So in addition to the nails, it just adds more rigidity to those wall studs. So really good example of a tall wall system. This is just the base of it. And as we looked at before, it heads right on up. Continuous in behind this stairwell here, all the way up to the top where we saw it. So, and here's our rear entry. Quite expansive. This big high ceiling. This looks like I think that's pretty much 10 feet, I would say. Yeah, it is, because it runs down, it's dropped here. You just went down a step from the main floor here, so 2 rises down. Probably a bunch of shelving and cabinets and type of things that probably go against this wall. Hang coats and store boots and hats and mittens and things like that. Just follow Sandy is his name, the gentleman doing the mark out for the insulation and mainly drywall. He's just spraying on the floor there again where items are in case they get lost. Just to make sure that the floor isn't getting a acid wash or exposed concrete finish before he does this. And he did confirm that it's going to be carpet. Make sure that he doesn't get in trouble. In any case, we're just about wound up inside. There was quite a few number of interesting things to note outside the house. So we're going to move outside, take a look around at some of the fire protection treatment that's required through the building, through later with cantilevers and things like that, and some gas meters and a set of precast front steps. We'll take a look at that. Light green material is glass mat fireproof protection for these cantilevers. So proximity to the property line, which I believe is within 1.4 meters, is required. And then the aqua colored sheathing, if you will, is more of a proximity to the property line just through construction. Fire protection on a temporary basis until the final product is on, and the lighter green glass mat is permanent fire protection. A close up here of its gypsum based fireproof product. Example of a gas meter installed in the house. This is where the gas comes in the house. There's our line coming up out of our trench. The gas meter's installed. There's likely a furnace in this house because we're going to go in and observe the preparation for insulation and drywall. Got a precast step. Building envelope up against the exterior sheathing. Separate the concrete from the wood. At our foundation wall, you can see a wing wall that would have been poured in anticipation for this precast step. It's been shimmed up with some concrete blocks, some steel plates. What we can't see is this whole unit will be hollow underneath, and there'll be an anchor bracket that's attached to the foundation here on the interior or the other side of this piece. Down underneath we can't see it. Maybe we can get a little peek of it on the other side, but that will support that concrete step. No, it's been backfilled, we can't see it, but there'll be an angle bracket under there that holds that whole thing. Example of a really nice precast window well. So this will be on steel brackets as well. I doubt they're visible because they've been backfilled, but this retains the backfilled material. Got loads of room for egress out of that basement window. Really slick, and we can see our weeping tile there. That should have a sock around it. Lots of cases, lots of builders will put washed rock underneath where this has been backfilled with soil, but that should run all the way down to the tile around the footing of the foundation. Catch any rainwater that collects in there and evacuates it away from the building. Okay, awesome. So thanks to Willicks Custom Homes for allowing us to take a look around in their project. Coming soon. Looks like they've got 2 units on the go here, and thanks to Distinctive Drywall for showing us around and letting us see what they do when they get ready to insulate a house. House Lab Guy Pandemic Edition.